I spent over 15 years growing our company from startup to $55 million in global revenue. And then one day, I lost it all. I'll never forget driving home that night. As I walked into our home, my wife and two young boys were sitting on the couch. They were 10 and 12 at the time. She had apparently just told them that Daddy had a bad day at work. As she got up from the couch to give me a hug, the only words I could find were, "I'm sorry." I was sorry because for years, she had warned me about growing our company too quickly. I was sorry because 6 months before that day, she urged me not to take on the private equity capital we were about to raise. But, like most good husbands, I didn't listen. I was chasing $100 million in revenue, driven by speed, ego, and a kind of ambition I now call blind ambition. You know, the kind that moves fast but never stops to ask where it's going? The next morning I woke up, went downstairs and opened my laptop, but I had no emails in my inbox. I opened my calendar, but I had no meetings or calls to attend. And in that moment of uncomfortable silence, I realized something far worse than losing a company. I had lost my identity. I had lost my why. Scratch that. I didn't even have a why. My company had a why. For years, we'd step away from the day-to-day grind and lay out our strategic business plan. Mission, vision, values, 5-year targets. We did it rigorously. My company had a long-term plan, but I didn't. My company had mission, vision, values, 5-year targets, but I didn't. Why was it that I had never taken the time to intentionally design my life? As the saying goes, if you don't know where you're going, any road will do. That morning, I realized I was on any road. And it forced me to rethink everything. So I want to ask you all a question. By a show of hands, how many of you have a specific, written down, long-term, 10, 20, 30-year life plan for all the most important segments of your life? Raise your hand if you have that written down plan. I was recently speaking to a room of 100 entrepreneurs, and I asked them that exact same question. 2 hands went up. 2 out of 100. I then proceeded to ask them, how many of you have a strategic plan for your business? As you can imagine, most of the hands in the room went up. That gap is the problem I want to talk about today. We are managing our lives, not designing them. Everything is urgent. Everything is important. And we're reacting with a constant stress that we might be falling behind. It's reinforced by a culture that treats ambition as the goal. Scroll any social media platform. You'll see ambition celebrated, admired, rewarded. But ambition is not a destination. It's a force. And like any force, what matters is the direction you point it. For most of my adult life, I had blind ambition. Movement without a clearly defined destination. And what I've built in its place, I now call patient ambition. The discipline of pursuing big goals over a long time horizon. Not moving slower, moving with more intention. For patient ambition to work, though, your destination must be clearly defined. And here's the neuroscience behind why. Most of what we do every single day is subconscious. We're operating on autopilot more than we all may think. When your life's goals are vague, your subconscious has nothing to work with. When your life's goals are specific, written down and repeated, it activates something in our brains called the reticular activating system. Think of it as your brain's primary filtering mechanism. It determines in real time what you notice and what you discard, based entirely on what you've trained it to look for. Let's test it. Take a few seconds and look around the room. And I want you to count everything red that you can see. Ready? Go. Okay, stop. Keep that number in your head, and now close your eyes. Without looking, how many blue things did you notice? Your brain didn't ignore the blue because it wasn't there. It filtered it out because you were looking for red. And that's the simple point. There are millions of inputs in this room right now. Colors, faces, objects, sounds. Our brains cannot possibly process all of them. So it filters based on what we've trained it to prioritize. When your life's goals are vague or simply non-existent, your brain is essentially unguided. It captures noise instead of signal. But when your life's goals are specific, written down, and repeated, your brain starts filtering for the conversations, the opportunities, and the decisions that are aligned with the life that you ultimately want to live. Which raises a question. Most people never seriously ask themselves, how much time do we really actually have? I want you to think back to where you were 30 years ago. Maybe for some of you, 10 or 20. For me, 30 years ago, I was 22. I didn't know back then who I'd marry, where we'd live, what I'd build, what I'd lose, what kind of father I'd become. And yet, most things in my life that genuinely matter were constructed during that period of time. Now, I want you to think forward into your future. What could be built over the next 10, 20, or 30 years? And if you're sitting here wondering, I don't know if I have that long, well, then you need to plan the next 10 like they matter even more. With advances in biomedicine and AI, none of us know how long we may live. But one thing's for certain, we all dramatically underestimate what's possible over 10, 20, or 30 years. When you plan your life in decades, the short-term pressure lifts. You stop having to choose between your health and success, or between your career and the people you love. Over decades, you can have abundance in all areas of your life. It first starts, though, with spending some real, intentional, quality time with yourself to actually think. I think I just heard someone here say, yeah, right. When am I going to do that? I hear you. We're busy. We have a lot of priorities. We have a lot going on, but I urge you not to spend one more day with the same type of blind ambition that I once had. You need to be clear on what the most important segments of your life are. Health, wealth, relationships, family, career, purpose, personal fulfillment. What are the areas that make you feel most alive? Most people plan one of those segments with any discipline. Usually, their career. And they expect everything else just work out by default. You need to be clear on what the most important segments of your life are. And then with extreme clarity, write down where you want to be in each of those segments 30 years from now. Nothing generic like, I want to be healthy. You got to be specific enough so your brain knows exactly what to filter for. Here's an example from my health segment. 30 years from now, I want to still be able to walk and play an 18-hole golf course with my kids, and grandkids. I will still beat them all at pickleball. My biological age will be 10 years younger than my calendar age. I'll still work out 3 to 4 times a week. I'll maintain a weight of 185 pounds, and so on and so on and so on. Keep writing until you exhaust everything you can think of for that segment 30 years from now. And then reverse engineer it. Where do you need to be in 10 years to be on track for that segment's plan 30 years from now? Where do you need to be in 3 years to be on track for that plan? Where do you need to be in the next year? How about this quarter? Now it's actionable. Read it repeatedly. Update it annually. Let it evolve. Because your life plan is your filter. And the tighter your filter, the clearer all of your decisions will become. You'll begin to subconsciously start asking yourself, what is the one thing that I should be doing right now that aligns to my ultimate life plan? When you do this, 3 things in your life will change. 1, your decisions will get faster. What seems like a hard choice today is mostly a misaligned question. 2, you'll stop chasing opportunities. Not because you lack ambition, but because you aimed it. And 3, your brain starts working for you, filtering for what truly matters instead of reacting to all of the noise. That, my friends, is patient ambition. A life designed in decades that shapes the decisions we make every single day. That night, when I walked into our home and saw my wife and 2 young boys sitting on the couch, I was completely defeated. I didn't realize it at the time, but I had been provided an incredible opportunity to stop chasing, to embrace the power of patient ambition, and design the life that I ultimately wanted to live. I was given an amazing gift that night. I just didn't recognize it at the time. Maybe this is yours. Thank you.